Yes, we are back again. Greetings, one and all. You're listening to the Weigh In podcast where we discuss all things boxing. I'm Ando Bonts, and today I'm joined on the scales with my man Clive CB. How you doing, bro?
What's going on, Andrew? All good? All good?
All the way in Thailand, we have Steve.
Alright guys, how you doing?
And Course fresh from his outdoor session on the pads in these bloody cold and adverse weather conditions. Ray, how you doing, bro?
In the building, in the place to be, in a warm building. Time to time to warm up. Let's go.
Honestly, man, I don't know how you do it training in this cold weather.
And there's a first for the sport, a first for the sport. We've got to keep on going. Hard work, dedication.
Good stuff. So this is the Weigh In podcast, and as ever, we like to encourage everyone tuning in to get involved. So please comment, share, and press that all-important like button. If there's any talking points you want the guys to tackle, please do get in touch.
Right, let's get cracking. So we may be looking forward to a positive year, but it's only right we take a moment to reflect on some of the great boxing action we all witnessed during 2020. The highs of Fury reclaiming his heavyweight title almost feels like a lifetime ago, right, chaps? And yeah, it's been an indifferent year, largely due to the pandemic. How would you assess the boxing scene right now? What were the key takeaways from 2020? Andrew?
I mean, it's been a crazy one, isn't it? The pandemic. It's been a stop-start year for boxing. You know, if we kind of go back to even a month ago, or even in December, where AJ took on Pulev, we had about 1,000 fans at Wembley Arena, and that was all kind of positive signs that there'll be fans again watching boxing. And now, a few weeks later, boxing's kind of paused again. So it's kind of been a stop-start year, and it's not helpful for boxers at all.
No, not at all, not at all. So yeah, us chaps put together a list of what we believe to be the standout fights of 2020. Let's start with Wilder Fury. Stephen, do you take it away?
I think the most iconic fight of the year, Fury finally got his crowning moment for that amazing comeback that he did, where the story's been told many times, but he was out of the ring for 2.5 years, lots of mental health issues, drugs and alcohol problems. He ballooned up in weight by 10 stone. He lost famously the weight of Ricky Hatton to come back to make a comeback against Deontay Wilder, the most fearsome puncher in the heavyweight division, not only of this generation, but of many other generations also. He did so well, but on that night, I felt he got robbed on that first fight. He didn't get the decision. He got a draw. He kept his O, but it set up a remarkable rematch where Tyson Fury, he always goes above and beyond. He's blown us away with performances before in his career, but this one, I think, was the pinnacle. To go and knock out Deontay Wilder in America to claim the WBC title and the way that he did it, amazing.
Mate, that was beautiful. Raymond, your thoughts on the fight?
I think the more shocking thing was the fact that Fury said that he was going to KO/TKO Wilder, and he done it. Many of us laughed at him when he said that. He's been infamous for not having the most powerful of hands, but credit to him, he went out there and he done it. I think people thought that he was just going to go into that ring, dance around Wilder for 12 rounds, and he went in there, he called the finish, and he got the finish. So let's just hope to less boxing politics and make this fight happen. I think we might have to wait until 2022 for that, because I'm sure that they would want a big enough crowd for that, such a momentous occasion. But kudos to Fury for that fight. He said he was going to shut down Wilder. He went there, he did it. So credit to
add in that Fury, when he fought Derek Chisora in that second fight, that was quite a big fight. A lot of people overlook that fight now because of where both their careers went. But at that time, that was a real crossroads fight, and a lot of people thought Chisora would win, a lot of people thought Fury would win. Fury fought that whole fight as a southpaw. Let's not forget that. He said, I can go out there and take apart a top contender like Chisora with my weaker hand. He then went over to Germany and fought Vladimir Klitschko and said, I can put Vladimir Klitschko on the end of a jab and do to Vladimir Klitschko what he has done to so many other people in the sport. He did it. He went over to America and he said he would knock out Deontay Wilder in the same way he knocked out so many people like he did before. And he went out and he knocked him out. Tyson Fury, he's a phenomenal fighter.
Were you guys surprised? Well, not by the outcome, but the fact that he was able to stop in the 7th round.
I actually personally, I actually thought he would do that. I knew that Fury could do that to Deontay Wilder. I know how good that Deontay Wilder is a phenomenal fighter, but he won his bronze medal in the heavyweight division in the Olympics. That's the cruiserweight division. You got the super heavyweight division also in the Olympics. So he won his bronze medal technically in the cruiserweight division. He weighs into fights at 15 stone, 15 stone 2, 15 stone 7, maybe his highest. Going up against a monster like Tyson Fury, where Tyson Fury stacked on a load of muscle for that fight. He went up to 20 stone of muscle, and he looked like he meant business. That's 5 stone, and I know that a lot of people in boxing, if you've never boxed, maybe you think that you can overcome those things, and you can. Mayweather's shown you can overcome those things, but Mayweather's doing it with a few pounds, 7 pounds, 5 stone against a guy who's a superior boxer to you already.
Yeah,
it's too much to overcome. And Deontay Wilder, to his credit, I cannot take away from the man. He has a heart. He has a big, big heart to stay in there with him, and he wanted to fight on. And I personally didn't think Deontay Wilder had that in him. I thought maybe there's some quitting him. There was rumors, no quitting that guy. And I would love to see the rematch. I know a lot of people wouldn't, but sure. I would like to see the rematch. Deontay Wilder deserves it. He's a true warrior of the sport. And I thought it just wasn't his night. Again, like we talked about, this is the pinnacle of the sport. Sometimes you get a draw, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, and they've shown that.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about a third fight. Andrew, would you be interested in that?
Yes and no. I mean, Tyson Fury, in everyone's eyes, won the first fight, and he won the second fight convincingly. So is there need for a third fight? I don't know. But then saying that, Deontay Wilder is the most devastating puncher on this planet. So all it takes is one massive right hand, and Tyson Fury, as you've shown before, could go on the floor. But I want to ask you guys about the whole drama surrounding Wilder post fight.
Wait, so I was just about to bring it up.
Yeah, guys. I mean, where did we start? I mean, it was a massive.
Where do we start, Andrew? Where do we start, mate?
I mean, it was a massive occasion from the ring walk to the costumes, the whole Black Lives Matter ring walk he had there. He's since sacked Mark Breland, who's his coach, who's shown nothing but loyalty and care to Deontay Wilder. There's since been allegations about Tyson Fury cheating. I know it's hard for a man to lose his first fight, but surely a champion of his class, and surely he could have bounced back better than that.
Yeah, if you compare the way Wilder took his L to when Joshua took his L against Ruiz.
Or even when Tyson Fury took that draw against Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone felt like you said, Andrew, we all felt that he didn't deserve to. He deserved to win that fight. But in the ring that night, he said, look, it is what it is. I'll come back and I'll prove you wrong. And that's what he did. And that's what Deontay Wilder really needs to do. Deep down, I think the reason he hurt so much is because he knows he lost fair and square and there's nothing to draw on. If you felt like you could win that fight, you would go back to the drawing board, arrange the rematch like Joshua did, like Tyson Fury did.
Yeah.
But the reality is he doesn't see any way that he can beat Tyson Fury, I feel. And that's hard for a boxer to take when you've lost legitimately, if you've got nothing to draw on. You've been outboxed.
I mean, Ray, I was going to say, if you kind of go back to almost 15 months now, I think it is. You and I were together watching that fight in the early hours on BT box office. Looking back now, was Wilder right to sack Matt Breland? I know you was kind of really outraged at the time.
Listen, I think the outrage kind of went a bit because you saw like how the fight was going, saw the bleeding from the ear, you saw that his legs were gone, and physically he just wasn't there. And I think I've seen fighters make excuses, but this is more damaging to his legacy than I don't think he doesn't realize just how damaging this is, because the second of Breland, who saved your life basically, because I get it, fighters are meant to be in that mode of I'm going to die on that shield. Your trainers are there to save you from yourself. And I feel like Deontay Wilder needs to acknowledge that, listen, yes, you are not a quitter. Yes, you're a fighter to the end, but he saved me for the right reasons, because at the end of the day, is it good to have a gladiator mentality? Absolutely. But you are not gladiators. You're going to go from that ring, you're going to go home, and you're going to live normal life after that.
Absolutely.
So all this stuff about him sacking Breland, I just feel like is him dodging face into reality, like what Steve said. You lost to the better guy that night. And then all the other excuses, whether it's the weight of your suit, whether it's the gloves that were used, whether all sorts of nonsense. It's just like Wilder, take the L, come back. If you're that good, take the L, come back, and knock him out if you're that good, because the trilogy is still there. I think that the trilogy will happen because I can't see Joshua versus Fury happening this year anyway. So I know they've mentioned doing it in Singapore, but the way the world is right now, I can't see them doing it. So they might as well get that rematch in and then let Usyk get his fight against AJ.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's the most probable outcome for 2021.
For sure. All right, boys. Our next fight, Lomachenko Lopez. So history was made with Lopez being crowned the youngest fighter to become a 4 belts undisputed champion. Andrew, talk
Oh,
to me
Devin
about that
Haney might argue that, but go
fight.
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was a it was a special moment, I would say, definitely. And I know last week you guys spoke about the whole exciting lightweight division, and I think what we witnessed on that night was the opening of a new superstar. You know, if you were kind of new to Lopez, you would have definitely had Lomachenko with a bigger name as the favorite. But what we saw on that night was Lopez absolutely dominate. I don't know
Oh
what
yeah,
Lopez.
for sure.
Yeah, I don't know what Lomachenko was actually thinking coming out so slow. I mean, Steve, you kind of broke it down on the group chats at the time very well. I mean, it's a title fight. You know, there's 12 rounds. You surely you can't take 7-8 rounds until you kind of warm up into this fight.
I think he was shocked by the size. Sometimes that happens in boxing. You can kind of like see someone and even be around them, but then the ring changes the dimensions of someone. And Teofimo Lopez boxes so well with his size and his length. And Lomachenko, you got to remember, he's come up in weights and he's come through the weights.
Yeah,
Lightweight already a struggle for him, and Teofimo Lopez is huge for a lightweight. He's going to go up and be a welterweight someday, I imagine. And he uses every bit of that length so well, and he like maximizes that distance. He regulates the distance so well, uses all of his size, and Lomachenko is not exactly the kind of fighter that can cut space and cut distance. He's a brilliant boxer. He's got a lot of angles, a lot of reflexes. But that's not his game. So it was a nightmare of a fight. I don't understand why he was in that fight, to be honest. That was a real tough fight for him. He was coming off a layoff as well. I don't understand why they chose that fight. They could have built that fight a little bit bigger, but that's boxing. Sometimes there's a classic banana skin. That's what happened. And well done, Teofimo Lopez. Now, what I feel is the number one guy in the division has all the belts, which is a nightmare for everyone else because you have to now go and get those off of him, which is a very hard thing to do.
for sure. Raymond, your thoughts on Lopez?
You know what? Firstly, I got to shout out my boy Denzel because he told me about Lopez about 2 years ago. And he kept on telling me, listen, there's this guy from America, Latin ethnicity / culture, and he goes, Teofimo Lopez. And my boy Denzel was telling me he's knocking guys out. And then he faced my fellow Ghanaian Richard Comey, and it hurt me to see it. He beat Comey convincingly. And I was just like, if you're going to do that to Comey, you better get them belts off Lomachenko. And kudos to him. He done it. And I think what it was, I don't know whether it's a case of Lomachenko, if there was another word for underestimating, like it was like a thin line between underestimating and not respecting Lopez boxing ability. I think he thought, oh, I'm just going to go in there with a brawler that's going to just come to my head and I'll out-slick him like the rest of the people that I faced. And I think he realized that night, Lopez showed that, no, I've got boxing skills as well. And seeing a short interview with Haney, I believe he said that as well about Lopez, that he knows him from way back in the amateurs, and he said that he's a great boxer. So it will be great to see where things go from there. But congratulations to Lopez.
Yeah, for sure. All right, boys. Our third fight. This one's a heartbreaker. It's Dylan Whyte Povetkin. Stephen.
Oh man, all those. The night I watched Ricky Hatton get knocked out by Manny Pacquiao, I realized that there's no fairy tales in boxing, and that was just another one of those for me. Just I really like Dylan Whyte. I think he's a real good representative for the UK boxing
People's
scene.
champ.
He's a real, people's champ, rags to riches story. He came up the real tough way, and he's kind of this like antithesis to Joshua's superstar. Joshua, from this side of the tracks in terms of boxing world, Olympic gold medalist. Dillian Whyte had to come up through the small hall shows and fight his way to the top. And just when he was there, the fighter that he is implored him to take on a tough fight like Povetkin rather than wait for his WBC shot, which he was entitled to do, and fight Tyson Fury whenever that fight may come up. Just sit and wait. But he said, no, give me the probably the fifth, the top guy outside of Fury, Joshua, those kind of guys. He took him on behind closed doors, no crowd there, so he didn't get paid a lot of money for that fight. Just shows the fighter that Dillian Whyte is. Yeah. And he was winning the fight. He puts him down twice. He's dominant. He's maneuvering Povetkin, who's an Olympic gold medalist, around the ring. He's looking like magic that night. I thought he looked really well that night. But this is heavyweight boxing, and Povetkin is a very, very good fighter and a very, very big puncher. And he set that shot up so nice. He set those same shots up against Anthony Joshua, and he had Anthony Joshua in a world of problems with those same kind of feints and trickery. And unfortunately, Dillian Whyte fell for it. And that shot could have landed on Anthony Joshua and done the same thing, but it didn't. Anthony Joshua gutted it through and got rid of Povetkin. Dillian Whyte wasn't as lucky. But he can come again. Hopefully he gets that rematch and he can come again.
Yeah, touch wood. Raymond, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Stephen summed it up well. It was heartbreaking seeing such a character like Dillian Whyte, especially because a lot of people have been saying he's been deserving of that WBC title spot.
Yeah.
So seeing that KO was kind of like, like Stephen said, it's like in boxing, there's not too many fairy tales. It was just a harsh reality of the sport and how cruel it can be. And, kudos to Povetkin, because I think it also shines well on Anthony Joshua, because when Anthony Joshua went in there and KO'd Povetkin, it was just like, oh, he's over the hill, he's this, he's that. And Povetkin showed listen, I'm still a top guy in this division, because a lot of people saw the fight as just a buffer for Dillian Whyte to maybe face Fury or maybe to get that Wilder shot, depending on where the politics of that goes. And Povetkin showed that he's quite the guy. And I think a lot of people were also, it was a weird one because I think Dillian kind of adapted his style. He was showing more technical prowess than he normally does. Because I think normally after he drops someone, he will normally go in there for the finish with more ferocious vigor. And I think this time he more took his time. And sometimes it might be a case of don't change someone too much from who they are.
Can I just ask, Dillian Whyte changed his trainer for that fight and he took a lesser known trainer from Mark Tibbs. Do you think that affected the performance? Do you think that was do you think looking back in hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, do you think that was a bad decision that night? Did the corner play any role in that? Or was that just a shot?
I mean, he was fighting well, and it was just a brilliant punch. Let's take nothing away from Povetkin.
Yeah,
I thought Dillian was doing well, and just unfortunate. Andrew, it looks like the rematch will take place. How do you think Dillian will do?
I think he goes and gets the win. I think he's absolute warrior. He got knocked down, but literally as soon as he woke up, as soon as he got up, he was Eddie. I want that rematch. And, that shows the heart in him. It was tough. He's had to wait 1,000 days, if more than. I've never known a fighter to wait so long for a title opportunity. The whole country got behind him. Like you said, guys, he was the kind of people's champion. He's done so.
And they didn't even offer it. WBC didn't even offer him a franchise belt. This is ridiculous. The only time they want to be stingy with belts is with Dillian.
Yeah, there's definitely politics going on, and he's had to go through his adversity over the years. So it was a huge blow, guys. So
for sure. All right, boys. Our next fight, back to the lightweight division, Davis Santa Cruz, and what a knockout that was. Probably knockout of the year.
Mate.
And it looks like Tank and Garcia are going to be getting on next. But let's talk about Tank and Santa Cruz. Stephen.
I think the obvious thing to think about that fight was the knockout. It was beautiful by Tank Davis. He set the shot up well. He started to really dictate the pace. Santa Cruz, to his credit, he moved up in weight, and he he was giving Davis some work that night, and then just he gave it a lot, and then after 5-6 rounds of giving up weight and really trying, sort of the energy levels dropped, and that's what kind of mostly set up that the opportunity for Davis to take that shot. But that's taking nothing away from Davis, because he's got that power and that ferocity that can do that to people, and that's what you can expect from Davis. And I think that's what people need to understand. But we do need to remember that Santa Cruz was coming up in weight, and Davis you can only beat what's put in front of you.
Yeah.
And he did what he was supposed to do. But let's see that Garcia fight now, or someone of that ilk, to let's see where these boys are at, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Andrew, thoughts?
Honestly, it was you're not going to see a better knockout than that in a long time. It was an absolute vicious uppercut. I remember watching that on Channel 5, I must say.
Yeah.
Shout out Channel 5.
Yeah, it's a real treat for UK viewers to have something on Channel 5. So that was great. But Tank is he's something special. Something special. That knockout was unbelievable. What I love about him was the ring walk as well. Coming out in the whole gear, the whole Mexican gear.
Yeah.
For me, again, another star was birthed on that night. He's been about for a couple of years now. I think he fought in the UK. Was it against Ryan Walsh, maybe, or something like that?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, a few years ago. So, hardcore boxing fans will know about him. But again, on that night, he really showed the world that he's here. And I want to ask you guys. I mentioned again last week about this division. Which fight do you see most likely to take place soon?
Haney, Garcia. Both under the DAZN umbrella. I think it's the easiest fight to make.
I think Garcia's gonna run away from that. I honestly think there's good reward, but the risk is even higher. And I just feel like losing against Davis is a situation of, do you know what? You was expected to lose, your star can still shine bright, but then losing to Haney, who's not as big of a star yet, it's kind of like very risky, because he's a highly skilled guy. And if my sources aren't wrong, Garcia's lost to Haney in the amateurs as well. And I got a feeling that lingers in Garcia's mind, because if he's got the WBC belt and you are the mandatory for it, I've never seen someone try duck the mandatory for a belt since Lennox Lewis and the name runs from my mind. Who's the guy that threw the belt in the bin so he didn't have to face Lennox Lewis again? Is it Ruttman? Or Riddick Bowe, I believe it might have been.
Yeah, Bowe.
Yeah, Bowe. Like I don't see Garcia taking that fight, even though that should be the easiest to make. So maybe
back to your point, Ray. Yeah. They fought each other 6 times. Garcia picked up 3 of those wins. So they got 3 wins each.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
That makes it even more exciting.
That's a great story. That's a great story to tell.
I think that's why there should be more motivation. But I can see Haney versus Lopez happening before Haney versus Garcia.
It's a crazy one. So I think Lopez,
I think Lopez over there with Top Rank, and he's going to be kind of tied up in that world. I think it's going to be very difficult to get him to come to the table.
I think, but with fighting under the zone, do you think it's easier for that fight to happen, because Top Rank hasn't got as many? I know they've got enemies, but I don't think the zone is one of those enemies. And whoever's Haney's advisors are, I don't think they have too much of a problem with Top Rank to make that fight.
But again, I think that these fights come down to advantages. So like the money needs to be right. If the money's right, then who's going to get the advantages? We all know about the referee and the judges and these kind of biases that promoters can get for their fighter.
It's on Lopez's side.
And it's like who's willing to concede those? Who even down to who goes first on the billboards? Whose name goes first, whose name goes second, who walks first. Ryan Garcia is a huge star. There's no way he's going to concede any of that. Devin Haney is a huge star. There's no way he's going to concede any of that. So even though they're with the same banner, these fights are nigh on impossible to make until you can create a huge pie of money for them to then take to so they can just go, well, all right, fair enough, it's worth me going second for that. But I don't think they're there yet. So I think it's going to take another year.
Yeah, it'll take a while, Steve, and I think also this pandemic doesn't help. I know in America they have had fans watch these fights, but it's still been capped at capacity. So I'm sure, sure the zone want to have a fight where it's a full house.
And we want to
Yeah.
see that because these are superstar fights. And as fans, you as a fan of boxing, you're a real like you get to a certain level of understanding of the sport. You kind of have to pick your battles between. You do feel like fights come a little bit too early sometimes, and then they're a bit too late sometimes. You want the fighters to get paid what they're worth for that fight, but you don't want to wait too long. And that those fights, in a healthy economic climate, those guys could all make serious money, and those could be really glamorous events which will grow the sport of boxing, which is what it's all about. So I think, and they're all young as well. Give them time, give them meaningful fights now, good fights. But 1 year, I think that's good time.
Yeah.
I think Lopez has a good mandatory against Cambosos, who we mentioned last week as well. So I think that's good for Lopez just to like get his name out there even more without having to use a pay-per-view model.
Again, a real fight, that's what we want to see. You want to see these kind of like there's a whole top 10 of contenders there for those guys to fight, and they should be looking to take those apart, build their stars in the next year to 18 months, all fight each other, make some good money, and set the division alight.
For sure. There's some other fights to mention, in fact. So it didn't make our list. We got, well, in fact, Stephen, you mentioned this the other day. It was Jose Sabina's fights.
Yeah. I set the WhatsApp group alight with the highlight reels of that fight. No, it's one that went under the radar a little bit.
For sure.
But yeah, definitely. You don't even need to watch the fight. Just go on YouTube, the highlights. A real barn burner of a fight. Eight knockdowns in the fight. Four knockdowns apiece. A real war of attrition between two guys whose profile has either faded or not been where they want it to be in their whole career, and they're fighting for their career. A little bit older guys, and they were fighting for that next spot. Maybe they can get another title shot. Maybe they can stay on TV if they stay here. They can get onto that next card. And you can see that in those two fighters. They were like, we talked a lot about fighters at the top of the division fighting for the gold. A lot of the time, the fighters who are just trying to stay on that TV, trying to stay on that card somewhere, and a little bit of money, they get forgotten about, and they made us not forget them this time. Yeah, Jose Zapita. Check out that fight, unbelievable.
Yeah, check it out, folks. Another fight that we wanted to mention, it was Ted Cheeseman and Sam Egginton. So a domestic dust-up between the pair, and that 12th round alone was exceptional. Andrew, thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, there was a lot of bants going on before the fight due to their surname. It's kind of egg and cheese. But, honestly, that 12th round alone was something else, and I think that's the beauty of boxing, and definitely in terms of our domestic scene, having those good old British dust-ups where you get two fighters who give it a roll. Sam Eggerton has since gone on to fight. Was it Ashley Theopane? I think it was, again on Channel 5.
Yeah.
He's kind of at a crossroads of his career now, but definitely for Sam Egerton, he's at that level now where he's got that win. He's kind of fell a bit short a few times, but he's definitely having that result now will help him kind of go forward.
Sam Egginton turned pro as a journeyman, and he lost his first 4 fights. And he was supposed to be, like this kind of. There's a certain role in boxing. You turn pro as a journeyman, you earn £500 a fight. And you're there to blood through the young Olympic gold medalists. You're there to sort of show them the ropes, but lose ultimately. And suddenly he just started winning, and he got a win, and then they fought for the British title. So he's completely overachieved in his career, and I think he should be very happy with where he got to, and by some great nights along the way. But that was a real that Ted Cheeseman fight. That was a real barnstormer.
For sure. All right, boys, a bit of a news roundup. Unfortunately, British boxing has been suspended for January because of the increase in coronavirus cases. Yeah, that sucks. So there's only so much Football Manager I can play out here.
Great time to bring back a boxing podcast.
I mean, the only good thing I guess for us is in America they've got more facilities to do bubbles and whatnot. So
yeah,
a lot of top fighters. Would you say? I don't know if the term is B list or those that's coming onto A list that are still fighting on TV for free. That gives opportunity. I think is a great opportunity for the fringe stars to have to make it big, whether it's the Buatsis of the world or in America, like Lopez did.
And I think a good example of that is what the UFC did in the last wave. Like they tossed it out there and they said, look, if you like, it's a free for all right now. Whoever's available and wins well, you can become a star overnight.
Yeah.
And like there's like countless examples in the last crazy year of fighters who were on the way out or would never have had a career, like maybe just been a journey, like, I don't know, and they've really boosted their star. So hopefully that can happen this year.
Yeah,
Touch
definitely.
wood.
I just want to say, guys, I think in terms of this whole pandemic, one positive thing has been lockdowns offered a great showcase for women's boxing. We've seen the likes of Savannah Marshall, Katie
Yeah.
Taylor, Chantel Cameron all come on and have their sort of chance to kind of showcase their talent. So that's been great, hasn't
That's
it?
very true. That TV time for them, it's been fantastic for them. You're right.
Cool. All right, that's all we have time for, folks. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you as always. Like, subscribe, all of that. Peace.
Do you know what?
Take care, people.